So it seems like fewer people than ever are wearing the poppy these days. But you know what? I'm going to say something. This might be unpopular opinion. I think there might be a good reason for that. But more importantly, we can also fix that. I'm going to chat about that a bit today with Bob and Dave from Red Friday Talks.
Real
How you
good,
guys
thanks.
doing?
Yeah,
Good,
yeah,
thanks. Great to see you.
yeah.
Dave, you're local, you're in Canada. Bob, you're currently overseas. Dave, what do you
It's
think about this? You
it's
see,
quite a, it's
what's
quite
your opinion?
a onion, Randy, because there's an old sales adage of never make it hard for the customer to part with their money. I had to go to several places to try to find a poppy in the last 4 or 5 days, and I actually found it in a little box at a grocery store called Sparsky's. Starsky, sorry. There's only a couple of them. They're nice big size, but it's like a great European deli kind of a spot. And that's where I found this poppy. So I grabbed a couple. So I think it's all well and good to say people aren't wearing them, but they're just not as accessible as they should be. And I know they've made them available on like through Amazon. You can buy them through Amazon if you like. And in the post-COVID world, people who don't want to leave their house really don't have to. But I think it's a little bit simplistic to say, oh, people aren't wearing poppies because they're kind of hard to find.
I'm going to give you kind of an insight into my day. I take the train, I go into the city, I get off, I walk to work, and I do the same thing back. Now, every year I was able to see people selling poppies. So I get off the train, there was people selling poppies at the train station in the underground complex along the way. This year, I'm lucky if I pass anybody who's actually selling a poppy. So you're bang on, but there's a couple different reasons. There's a few different additional reasons. Sorry, why you just don't see them as much. And we can't just make it simplistic as if people just don't support our troops or support the cause. Number one, they're harder to find. Absolutely. Number two, you just walk down the street and what are you going to see around Remembrance Day? You're going to see poppies everywhere because people buy them and they slide off their coats really easy. I've bought poppies and I wear them, but then I walk by somebody who might be selling a poppy and I don't have mine. Then I feel guilty because I don't want anybody to think I don't support because I 100% do. So I end up buying another one. Or if I change coats, I have to buy another one. But here's a third reason. Who carries change anymore? In a grocery store, you may see somebody holding the poppy box, and in the past, it wouldn't matter if you had one red cent or if you had a quarter or nickel, wouldn't matter. You put the change in there. Barely anybody has change, and you don't want to, and you feel guilty when you're walking by because they don't have tap on their phone, or they don't take debit. So there's less ways to pay. So you touched on something really, important there. You can't just simplify it down to people are not as
I had
supportive.
the same experience with little beaver fellows selling apples a few weeks back. They're selling apples. And like, I didn't particularly want an apple, but I couldn't even, give them a dollar. It didn't have any change on me at all. And I think that's their new reality. The point about making it hard for people to buy. I'm the old guy in this group. I actually remember the pop used to have a little bit of green felt in it actually a long time ago. But I remember milk delivery to the house. I remember bread men. That was a model that worked at the time inside of the economics of the time, and it became something that didn't make sense. We've recently seen the Avon model, which worked wonderfully for decades. Now Avon is selling product online and competing directly with their own sales force. So I think this is a much deeper thing than just they're hard to find, and the message. I think if we had any time to spend on it, I think the message of what the Poppy Fund is and does is the really important part of this. And I'm not as well versed as Bob is because I'm not a veteran, I'm just an old farmer. But I think people should know more about the Poppy Fund.
I would tend to agree that it's partially education, um, but there's a couple of bright spots. I think we're in a transition phase, and I'm not trying to couch this to make this feel nice. We have a group of people from the Legion that are aging out and passing. The young ones haven't really come in, and I mean middle-aged folks, the Afghanistan veteran cadre and so forth, haven't really come into full force yet. And there is a movement within the Legion itself. Well, there are two things to consider. The Legion is perceived to be in decline and has been for years. Now, if that's true or not, that's a debate for another day. They still do fantastic work. So there you are. But at the same time, their messaging isn't as forceful as it used to be. So I honestly don't think that they have the cadre or the resources or the volunteers, you call it that, to get out on the street and do what they used to do. Number one. Number two, you're absolutely correct about the payment systems. Ease of payment has to be a thing. I'm not aware. I remember I was on a working group years ago on a related matter to find a way for cadets to be able to process the tag money that they took. We never really came up with a viable solution, and I still don't think there is a viable solution at the box level. But with the proliferation of online shopping, Poppy is available in more places numerically, probably than it ever has been in the world's history. That's probably true. But as an educational thing, um, I would say that there are a few bright spots. You'll see a lot of school boards are now having a veteran or someone who had served and was honorably discharged go to the school and speak about Remembrance Day and what it actually means. So, are the kids getting the message? Not as broadly as we want them to, but that'll be something that can change.
Yeah, the thing you mentioned about too about the Poppy Fund is that this is a organizational charity drive thing that is quiet and subtle and works in the background, and there's not a lot of fuss attached to the good works of the Poppy Fund. They're not like building wings on a hospitals or anything like that. They're going into people's houses and making sure that disabled veterans stoves can be accessed by them, and make sure they get to their meetings and their appointments and stuff like that. That kind of real charity needs to be done quietly and subtly and no big fuss or fanfare. But the downside of it is that people don't know that's what's going on. So I agree with you about perhaps the PDF thing is letting people know all the good works that are done through the Poppy Fund quietly and in the background.
Um, my suggestion is this: it's not a lost cause by any stretch of the imagination. Randy, your points are absolutely valid, as are yours, Dave. I think that the more we bring this to the public's attention through our activities and the interconnection between the services and the need for recognition for the veteran piece, and the veteran piece is Remembrance Day. That's the one RCMP, as well as the military. That's pretty much the one that we get. I mean, the crowd I run with, so to speak. There seems to be a disconnect between the popularity or the knowledge base, just call it that, the awareness of Remembrance Day and what it all means compared to what we're actually seeing on the street, which is a lack of poppies. Because that's the bellwether, right? That's the watermark that tells us yes or no.
If you look online, so I've spent a lot of time online. I have a fairly high social media presence. What you don't see in person, you actually can see online. There's people that add stickers to their profile photos. I don't mean a physical sticker. It's a poppy on the bottom, and you can see it on their profile pics and on some of the posts and videos that they share. So perhaps that's another way of looking at it. We live in a virtual world. Our attention is everywhere. Even if you are in person, people are looking at their phones, and you do see a lot of the patriotism and pride shown through virtually.
I would like to, as we're getting close to closing off this session, I would also like to remind people that most communities in Canada have access to a Legion. They're serviced by Legion. Some places like Mississauga, where I worked for 35 years, I think there's 5 Legion branches in Mississauga. They are very good hosts. And I remind people that if you're thinking of hosting a party or throwing a bash or any of that kind of, more than just your family kind of stuff, or if you want to host a conference in the daytime, we've moved away from old fashioned conferences and everything's on Zoom now, but people prefer to go to conferences and sit at tables and meet folks. You cannot beat the Royal Canadian Legion for their pricing and their access and their willingness to participate. You'll get a great deal at the Legion and they treat you great.
I didn't know that until a couple of years ago that the Legion, you could actually run external events at the Legion. Listen, before we end off, I just want to kind of mention if you or anybody else, anybody watching this, you want any more information, please check out redfridaytalks.help. Redfridaytalks.help. I'll also put a link to the website in the description. An excellent discussion today. Lots to chat about, and really, the onus is up to us to help get the word out and see what kind of change we can bring in terms of revitalizing Remembrance Day. Listen, guys, have a great day.
Thank you so much. Take care now. All the best.